So Valentina is going to lead us in our opening ritual, which is going to be fatiha recitation followed by silence, which she will lead and take us out of, and then hand over to me. Oh, I should say, sorry, this is like a new version, so I forgot to do this. Just so for the recording. So I'm Shamasa with Wisdom in Nature, and this is Disrupting Fasaad-ic Structures through Community Building Forum. And we're going to start with a short ritual, opening ritual, and some silence, and then proceed into the main forum. Thanks, Valentina.
Okay, amazing. So I'm just going to invite everyone to kind of sit comfortably and to close their eyes if they'd like to. And I'm just going to do our ritual, which is just reciting Al-Fatiha, and then I will take us out of it as well after. So this is kind of how we begin and end our meetings and events normally. So if you're sitting comfortably, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. And slowly bringing back awareness into the room and to how we're sitting and feeling. And slowly opening up eyes if they're closed. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Valentina. So I'm going to pass it over to Muzammil at this point, who is the founder of Wisdom in Nature, which was previously London Islamic Network for the Environment, to speak a little bit about Wisdom in Nature.
Great, thank you, Shmesa, Valentina, and everyone. And yeah, it's very much a team effort. It's great to have. So while I'm the founder as such, it's been a kind of chemistry, a kind of real kind of yeah, interactions and of great people that have contributed to the group and how it is. So I'll say a little bit about the history just very briefly, and I'll lean into then sort of 5-strand activism model, which connects well with the topic that we're going to be going into today. So Wisdom in Nature, as Shemessa mentioned, was called the London Islamic Network for the Environment. And that started in 2004. And we were very active, so we're very much an activist group, very regular with our kind of monthly meetings and organizing land-based and kind of social initiatives and engage with climate activism in particular, mobilizing for demonstrations and so on. And we, while being a small organization, and we've never applied for funding, but being a small organization, we created quite a high impact at that time. But as we were doing this, we also began to appreciate that that it's very easy to be working for a cause that is good, for an outcome that is good, but to actually be mirroring the processes and the paradigm internally that we don't believe in, that we're just kind of perpetuating internally the same dynamics, even though the cause is good. And yet we may not achieve the outcome. So what we're left with is the process. So ultimately, in a way, process has to be kind of primary. Outcome is important and action is important. Accountability is important. So all these qualities are important. And that's the tough journey that we're attempting to embody. And we became also somewhat of a training organization as well, training around Islamic ecology, permaculture, and group process facilitation. Something that we really want to bring in more into the kind of Muslim consciousness, the role of facilitation and of empowering others and stimulating wisdom to come through, and how a group can make bottom-up decisions, things like that. So a real collective ownership of things while allowing for individual uniqueness and the kind of unfolding of individual potential as well. So that's kind of, I always frame it in slightly different words depending on where I'm at, but that's kind of the framing for today. The 5-strand activism model developed through our kind of experiences, and it kind of crystallized into, hey, yeah, this kind of frames and sets some kind of, yeah, kind of bearings around what we are attempting to do and how. And what the 5-strand activism model is, it's for 4 of the strands, the 5 strands, 4 of them are a movement away from and a movement towards. So that's how it's framed. It's a movement away from states, processes, paradigms that are contributing to the degradation of the social and wider ecology. So a move away, we could say, from Fasaadic structures, processes, states, paradigms, and towards ones that are nurturing, wholesome, and in alignment with the natural order, with the fitrah, and help to restore ecological balance, mizan. So each one's framed as away from and towards, and I won't go through all of them, but I'll just name them. And one's earth and community. The other, another one is deep democracy, then whole economics, and climate justice. And they kind of sit on the 5th one, which is engage surrender. Okay, so if you want more about them, it's on our website, wisdominnature.org, but that's just a kind of overview. And the kind of overall intention is it's a holistic framework that's for dialogue, for reflection, and for action, a holistic framework for co-creating conscious, just, regenerative communities and integrating land, people, and the economy. So that kind of, maybe we can, yeah, kind of see how that kind of leans in to the topic today, and see what new creative ideas we can bring forward together. Great. So I'll hand over back to Shamesa now.
Thank you, Ms. Emma, and also Valentina. Yes, so I'm going to pick up from that and talk about how we landed on the theme of Beyond COP, Regenerative Structures for a New Society. And to some extent, there's some overlap between what Ms. Emma just said. So what happened was, last year, we were considering what, if any, role or relationship we should have with the COP. How should we get involved, if at all? And we thought about it together, our team, and it was there was this kind of pull to, this felt like a significant, more significant COP. There have been previous ones, of course, and we hadn't been involved for a period in climate, directly climate demos and actions and things. As Muzammil had said, certainly from the early noughties, is that what it's called, early to mid 2000s, for many years, we had been quite involved in climate actions, climate demos, climate camps. Initially, Muzammil was heavily involved, and then the team at the time. And then at some point, we, as a very small group, felt like maybe we had served in the way we could, and that raised awareness in the Muslim community to the point that there were other endeavors and groups emerging, and even mainstream big Muslim orgs were starting to engage on it, and whether our energy should go into that kind of thing. And so we hadn't been involved so much in many years, but last year we were thinking, like, this feels different, should we or shouldn't we? But what we came back to was sort of the same, what Muzammil had already talked about. Like, we felt that regardless of the outcome of COP, that the structures needed to change, however successful COP would or wouldn't be. And as a small group, that we wanted to focus on that part of it, on what happens after COP. And we wished for its success, of course, and we really value all the individuals and groups that have engaged with it. So that's where we decided to, as a group, focus on this as a theme, on beyond COP and the structures that need to change radically if our future is going to change or be a different future, radically different. So we landed on the theme, and we were thinking about what to do within that theme and had some ideas. But what happened was, fortuitously, the Zapatista delegation was touring the UK and had a big tour to visit the various other places in the world. And we were fortunate enough to be invited to participate in sessions with them. And because they are living that changing structures in where they are, through deep community building, which effectively was, basically was what our theme is about, like changing the structures to create a more kind of life-affirming society, affirming for human life and for the rest of life on our planet. So it happened that they were coming, and then we were able to participate in the sessions, and it was such a rich experience for us. That became the focus of our of the last forum, and it resonated with the participants, and there was just so much to go into. We barely scratched the surface. So that's what led to continuing that kind of conversation in this forum, but on deep community building as a way to disrupt the Fasaadic structures. And so I don't want to go, I guess, on and on, because we want to leave a lot of space for that going into in this time. I think for me, another thing at this juncture is around community and community building, is that we're 2 years into the pandemic, and what happened in the early pandemic, or at least when it was for us in the UK, and I think more widely, there was this big wave of mutualism, mutual aid, communitarianism, and it was like this glimmer of hope for me, maybe a bit naively, for like, maybe this is a terrible, tragic situation, and what is there in here? What lessons are there? What is it offering? And then suddenly, like, as often happens in disasters, anyway, that happens, that people just put aside their differences, their boundaries, and are there in a way that is just so rich and beautiful. But I hadn't seen that at a global scale, because disasters haven't been global in that way. So in my lifetime, so that was happening. That kind of hope that, okay, this is a horrible situation. There's so much loss, and yet this is the beauty coming out of it. And so, and then, so kind of towards the end of 2020, and then certainly into last year, it felt that as the structures hadn't fundamentally changed, of course, so people's furloughs were ending, those who benefited from furlough. And through my own involvement in some grassroots initiatives and things, and awareness of mutual aid networks, some of them, that began to dissipate. There are still things happening, of course, thankfully, but that kind of pervasiveness that was there early on, it began to dissipate. And so, yeah, so this is why, again, I wanted to come back to this at this point for this forum, and open it up and hear more about other people's thoughts and experiences. And I'm gonna open it up to Muzammil and Valentina to share and contribute to your kind of reflections on the theme and this particular forum, and then we will carry on. Thanks.
Valentina, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can do. I'll just share a little bit. I mean, I echo a lot of what Shmesa has kind of already mentioned. And yeah, we had a really incredible previous forum where a lot of people brought in ideas and sharings and reflections on kind of the Zapatista movement, which is a movement which, yeah, has done some incredible deep community building, and how we can kind of gain inspiration and knowledge and share skills and experiences with groups and organizations and historical ways people have tried to disrupt more disruptive societies. Yeah, and I guess what came up for me a lot last time as well was the similarities between the kind of Zapatista movement and kind of the early prophetic movement as well in Islam. And there was a lot of similarities that came about like the banning of alcohol and the empowerment of women and involvement in society, and how we can kind of look to our faith and our spirituality as well as guides and inspirations to building community, and what kind of resources everyone can bring in, and skills and things to share. And yes, I'm really excited for today to kind of explore that deeper, and for people bring, I mean, it sounds like people have the most incredible experience in this forum and ideas, and it'll be great to have just a sharing of that. And yeah, that'd be lovely. I'll pass to you, Muzammil.
Great, thank you, Valentina and Shmesa there. Don't know what I've got to add. I think that yeah, one of the challenges that I'll name kind of two things that are coming up for me. One is that we've got incredible richness in this room, in this Zoom call, and in the wider society of so much skill and vision and passion. And then in this time we're in, there's like so many energies coming together at the same time, that I don't think any one energy has all the answers. And yet we don't want to be too fragmented either. So I think the work that we have to create something new that is also not the same as the story we hold in ourselves, in terms of the dominant narrative that is also there, is really challenging work, and we all need each other, and we need each other as critical friends, critical loving friends, and we need to embrace, with consciousness, with awareness and appropriate filtering, some of the great stuff that is there in today's world that can help us with the skills and the I guess the awareness, and so forth. There's a lot of work being done around groups and that is coming forward that I think is incredible, and that we want to be experimenting more with. And the other thing I want to just say briefly is about, you know, where does community happen, and we're all in different contexts. So you know, sometimes we think of eco villages or you know, kind of something that is like really concentrated, but there's, you know, some of us live in cities, and you know, the question is, how is there a way where community or that direction can be opened up in our current place of power, and I find that really interesting as well. I don't have an answer which direction I'm quite going, but I think that's really up there for me. Okay, I'm going to hand back to Shimesa now.
Thank you, Informal and Valentina. Okay, so at this point, so as I said, we're going to break out into breakout rooms soon. I think maybe Valentina, if you can switch the recording off, that'd be great. Thanks.